For those of you who don't know me, allow me to introduce myself a little bit. I'm the creator and host of the YouTube channel, Hard Boiled English. And on that channel, you can find my long-form series that I've made with my students. It's called English Weirdness. And in this series, we combine dramatizations, animations, and in-depth analysis of some of the strange aspects of English language. And recently, I've launched my online writing workshop. So if you need help with your English writing, this is the place for you. It's a brand new thing. It's still being built, so be patient, please. But it's also available at a very, very low price for all my friends. So check it out, writingworkshop.thinkific.com. And of course, I'm always available for private coaching and tutoring, should you need that. Who else has joined us? Let's bring you on. Let's have a look at the chat thread. Forgive me if I mispronounce your names, guys. I'm going to do my best. Here's a very interesting name I've never heard before, so let me have a go at it. Okay, it's 2 a.m. in Belgium. Thank you for staying up late and watching with us, Chris. That's great. My friend Buanish AQ, welcome. And where are you watching from? What country are you in? Hopefully I didn't make a mess of your name. I'm terribly sorry if I did. We have Facebook user. One of the things that happens, guys, is we stream to a couple of Facebook groups that I administer. And if you're watching in a Facebook group, I'll never see your name unless you type it. So Facebook user, I don't know what your name is, but a very nice message. Thank you. I really miss you, whoever you are. Please tell me your name, or jump over to the YouTube channel, Hard Boiled English, or you can find me at my Facebook profile, Paul Duke, or Teacher Paul, because there I can see your name. We have Chris joining us from Brazil, Maria Cristina. Who else is joining? Say hello, guys. Tell me what country you're watching from. And get a sense of who's with us and where you are. It's one of my favorite things about doing this show is meeting everyone, and seeing how many countries represent when you guys join. So we have joining us on LinkedIn, we have Angela. Welcome, Angela. And what country are you in, Angela? Great to have you all here, guys. We're going to get to our first segment in a moment. We'll do a little vocabulary practice. Tonight we have a very interesting vocabulary practice. Might surprise you. Ah, Angela. Okay, great. Angela is watching from Serbia and USA. Okay, great. Sounds like you're a traveler. Or maybe a teacher. Angela, are you a teacher of some kind? Okay, Facebook user is my friend Salem Alolayan from Saudi. Salem, great. Nice to have you. We have Faoud joining us from Morocco. Hi, Fouad. Fouad, okay. Great to have you with us, guys. We have Yoshishige from Japan. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Great to have you all, guys. Hopefully you're all staying well, staying healthy. And wherever you are, hopefully you're starting to enjoy some nice weather. Although I spoke to a student in Brazil earlier and they said they're getting cool weather. So they're on the opposite things. We have Ellie Chen with us. Hi, Ellie. Thank you for joining us. Great to have you with us. Yes, Angela, ESL teacher in Q International. Great. San Diego. Lovely. I'm sure you have great weather there. And Facebook user, it's great to join you. Awesome. Great to have you with us, Salim. I'm going to jump right into our first segment, guys. So let me just clear this off the screen. Our first segment is a segment where we introduce a piece of vocabulary each week and give you guys a chance to practice using it. And this season, we're focusing on adverbs. And today, I'm going to introduce not one, but three. So let's get to our first segment, which is goodly. Words to use instead of goodly. Don't use goodly, it's not a word. Okay, tonight's first word, let me just find it. Where are we here? Tonight I'm going to give you 3 adverbs, and the reason I'm going to give you 3 is that usually they coincide or work together interchangeably. Okay, so the words are yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And a lot of people are familiar with these words. The first one means, of course, the day before this day. The second one, today, means on this day. And the third one means the day after this day. Everyone knows yesterday, today, and tomorrow. But a lot of people don't realize these are adverbs. These describe when an action occurred. So we can use them to modify the verb. And because they're adverbs, like a lot of adverbs, they can move in a sentence. Generally, they're at the beginning of a sentence or at the end of a sentence. So I'll give you a couple of examples of my own, and then I want you to use 1 or 2 or 3 of these in a sentence in the comment thread, okay? So I'm going to say, yesterday, I ate. Now, that's a pretty simple sentence. Let me clear the logo, guys. Get that logo out of the way. Yesterday, I ate. But if I don't have that adverb, if I just have the simple clause, I ate, you don't know when that action happened. You may have a question, right? I ate. When did you eat? Well, there's the answer. Adverbs answer questions that you might have about a verb. Of course, there are other questions you can ask about a verb like ate. You can ask, how? Well, the answer will be an adverb of manner. I ate quickly, right? We can do something like this. I will visit you when? Tomorrow. Right? I will visit you. When? Tomorrow. When I will visit, right? That describes the verb. It describes the action. It tells us when the action will happen, in this case, in the future. Okay? So guys, I want you to use these in a sentence in the comment thread, and we'll get some of your examples up on the screen, okay? Remember, it's an adverb, so you need a verb. You can't just say something like, today, pizza. Unless, of course, you're in a conversation and you've already introduced an action, but as a sentence, especially a written sentence, this isn't very complete. Today, pizza. What? Today, pizza what? Okay? But give me a sentence with a verb using one of these adverbs, okay? Today, yesterday, today, or tomorrow. Let's see what you have. I also want to say hello to Aiko from New Brunswick. Thanks for joining us, Aiko. And Araceli from Mexico. Welcome, Araceli. Nice to see you again. Thank you for joining. Okay, guys, who's got an example here? Let's see. Let's see if you can use yesterday, today, and tomorrow in a sentence. Maybe I'll just keep this off screen. Any ideas, guys? Don't make me do all the work. This is your chance. Show me what you can do with these adverbs. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. Try one. We have another guest joining us. This is Yahaira Nunez from Honduras. Yahaira, hopefully I say that correctly. Chris has an example for us. Let's see what she's got. Yesterday I had a haircut because today I have to go to an exhibition by my favorite animalist. Great. So Chris has used both yesterday and today. And you'll notice in Chris's example, when she starts with the adverb yesterday, she also puts a comma. So adverb, comma, and then comes the subject and the verb. But if you use the adverb later in the sentence, you don't need the comma. So when she uses today, no comma. So well done, Chris. Thank you. Great example. Anyone else have an example? Oh, here we go. I went to farmer's market today. Great. Hopefully you have found lots of nice vegetables or snacks. Well done. I celebrated Teacher's Day this morning. Was it Teacher's Day? I had no idea. One of the strange parts about not working in a school at the moment, I work from home, nobody says Happy Teacher's Day to me. Kind of makes me a little sad. Ah, Teacher's Day in Mexico. Well, Araceli, who's also a teacher, Happy Teacher's Day to you, Araceli. Okay, anyone else have an example of using this one of these adverbs? Who else wants to try? Everyone's shy, I know. Guess what, guys? I'm shy. And if I'm shy, and you're shy, and we're all shy, nobody's shy. So just try it. You're welcome, Araceli. Come on, students, give me a sentence. You can do it. You can do it. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. I think you all know how to use this. That's why I put 3 today instead of 1. Okay, we have Maria Cristina. I'll visit a childhood friend tomorrow afternoon. Great, so tomorrow afternoon is an extension. It's like a double word adverb phrase. Period. She called me yesterday. Perfect. Well done, Chris. Very nice. Oops. Yesterday, I went to the supermarket and bought vegetables. Great. Now this is Facebook user. Is this Araceli or Salem? I don't know. Great sentence. Excellent. Good job, guys. Tomorrow I'll work in Evernote on a book I started today. Okay, great. Chris is a very diligent student. Okay. Okay, guys. I'm going to end it there because I want to save lots of time for... Oh, Phyllis is with us. Hi, Phyllis. Welcome to the show, Phyllis. Thank you for joining us. Phyllis, what country are you watching from? I can see that you're on Facebook, but why don't you tell us what country you're in? Get an idea. We've got Mexico here, we've got Brazil, we've got Japan, we've got New Brunswick, Canada. We have Belgium with us. We have Honduras, we have Saudi Arabia, Serbia, and the USA with us. Where are you, Phyllis? Okay, I'm going to clear the vocabulary segment, guys. Give my board a little spray. With my instant drying whiteboard spray by Expo. And there should be a link below where you can buy it at a good discount. Okay, getting rid of the graphic, guys. Where is it? Okay. It's time to bring a very special guest onto the show. This is a good friend of mine, a colleague, someone I've worked with over the years, a fantastic English teacher who's got a very interesting learning experience, teaching experience, and a very interesting language experience to share with us in his own experience, from his own experience. So I want to share his story with you, introduce you to him, and he's going to give us some tips, he's going to share some insights, and hopefully some laughs, undoubtedly some laughs. So without further ado, guys, I want to introduce you to my friend, English teacher Raul Figueroa. Where are you, Raul? Hi, Raul. How are you?
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
Great. Great to have you
Good.
with us.
Good. Oh, thank you for the excellent. Good for the praise.
Give me one moment here. Phyllis is
Sure.
with us. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, Raul, welcome to the show. Been a
All
long
right.
time
Thank you.
coming. I've hoped to
Yeah.
have you on for a long time.
Hmm.
Let's start from the beginning, as we often do with guests. They
Sure.
now know you're an English teacher.
Right.
By the way, guys, I forgot to mention he's an English teacher in my city, Vancouver, Canada. However, he's traveled around and taught in many places. So, Raul, can you just take us back to the beginning of your story? Where would you start if I asked you to tell your story of becoming a language teacher? Where does that story start?
Um, well, let's see, where can we begin? Well, I'm actually, so I was born in Chile, okay, but my first language is not Spanish. My first language is actually English because I moved to Canada when I was 3 years old. And
Okay,
I went to elementary school, high school, university. So basically, all my upbringing was in Vancouver, and particularly North Vancouver. I always like to say
North
I'm from the
Vancouver,
shore,
for
okay, up
sure.
in the mountains. So the funny thing is that my worst subject in high school was English. I hated it. My worst grades were in English. But what happened was, after I graduated from university, some of my friends decided to go to Japan and to Korea to teach English. And so that always got stuck in the back of my mind. And one time I went on vacation for 4 months to Chile to visit my family. And I met my wife there, who was my girlfriend at the time. And like usually when you're dating, you run out of money. So I had to
Mm.
decide, do I stay in Chile, get a job, or do I come back to Canada and work? And so
Can I hold
yep,
you one
go ahead.
pause one
Yep,
second, Raul? Can you
sure.
go back one step? At
Sure.
university, did you study language or something different?
No, no, I got a degree in biology. I have a Bachelor of Science in biology.
Yeah. Okay.
So, which is a usually a big question a lot of students ask is, oh, so you got an English degree? No, I got a biology degree. And it goes, then
Yeah.
why are you an English teacher? And so some of the things is even though you study something in university, you don't always follow that.
That's right.
And so what happened is, with my wife, my girlfriend at the time, I applied to some English institutes in Chile as a just to see what's available, and I got hired. But I felt it's one thing to know how to speak the language; it's a different thing to actually learn how to teach it. So
Yeah.
I decided to come back to Canada, make some money, and I studied a TESOL certificate
Hmm.
in Canada, and that's where I learned how to become a teacher.
Yeah.
And I learned to appreciate it. Then after 6 months, I moved back to Chile and I became a teacher. So I left. So I lived in Canada for 23 years. Moved there in '99. Supposed to have a 5-year plan, turned into a 17-year plan. All right. But then, and that whole time, I started teaching English because as I said, my friends did that for 2, 3 years in Japan and Korea. That was the most popular place in that time, and it just so happened I could do it in Chile for that, and basically made it into a whole career. And then in 2016, I decided finally to come back to Canada, and that's where I met you at
That's right. Yeah.
ELS and started working there.
What
And
brought you
so that
back to Canada? What motivated that change? That seems like a big change at that point after having
right,
been in Chile for so long.
right. Basically, life was good in Chile. Actually, I was quite successful. I'm very happy there. But as I have 3 children, my children getting older, I wanted them to basically have the Canadian experience.
Right.
So I wanted them to see what it's like to go to a high school in Canada and make friends and had that type of lifestyle there, so that when they graduate from they graduate from high school, they would decide, okay, do I continue living in Vancouver or do I go back to Chile? So do I go to
Right.
school in Chile or do I go in Vancouver? And so that was basically the motivation behind that.
Yeah.
And so far, they want to stay. So they want to go visit, but they want to stay, which is good. Hmm.
But it's so great that they've had the benefit of those two experiences, those two
Hmm.
different countries, very far away from each other, very different. That's just going to make them more richly educated and
Hmm.
more rounded people, I guess. Right.
Right.
More.
Right. What's always about I'm always I believe the about opening doors, right?
Yeah.
Always have to open doors. Never close windows, always open doors. because it'll give you more option in the future. And so when you are exposed to a lot of different experiences, that actually it makes you learn a lot about yourself and what's out there and what you really like or you don't like, you know.
Yeah.
So especially being a young person when you graduate from high school, nobody really knows what they want to do, and through the experience they go through, they start decide, they see where the path is going to go, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully that with my kids, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And one of your boys is old enough so that you've actually played rugby with him.
Yes, yes.
And that sounded like a really exciting, not achievement, exciting moment for you guys, huh?
No, no, it is. No, it is. You probably saw that on the Instagram. So,
Yeah. Well, I remember you
um,
telling me about that last month at some point.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I played rugby basically since I was 12 years old, and I have a great club here in Vancouver called Capilano Rugby Club. But what happened is that I'm old, so I play for the older guys. I play for the over 40 team, which is known as the Snow Caps, and the the third division team, which is just young guys, needed some players because they didn't have the numbers, and they asked us if we could play, and I said, yeah, I can play. So I'm 49 playing with 20 year olds. In fact, I have rugby jerseys older than them, you know. And so you can see on the logo. So, for example, the Gobbler Championship right there, 1995, and all these kids are 2002, 2003, right?
It's
So it's funny.
amazing.
So when my son decided to join me, we got a chance to play together
That's
and
great.
have a picture. Yeah, because it's a dad's dream to always play like competitively, not just a pickup game. No, it's actually
Yeah.
a competition, full on competition. That was a lot of fun.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Let's go back for a minute to Chile
Sure.
because I want you to explain to our viewers and to me actually how, how do students in Chile learn English? Do they learn it in high school or language schools or privately? How does that work? And how did you fit into that
Okay.
system of whatever?
Um, well, you do have English classes in schools, both public or private. But uh, as you might remember in your high school experience, you probably took French.
Yeah.
Do you remember French?
No, and
Did you learn?
I had no choice. I had
Right,
no choice in the matter.
right. But the thing is a lot of people, even though they studied throughout high school, they don't remember anything. They don't remember French, and that's basically the same thing in Chile. So, because if you have 20 or 40 students in a class, the teacher can't um, pay too much attention to you. So basically, what you
Yeah.
learn is maybe vocabulary and some grammar. That's it, but you don't get to produce it. So
Yeah.
you have
You don't
that.
get the
In some of the
feedback.
private schools, obviously, you might have English immersion schools where everything's in English, and those are the ones who
Okay.
tend to speak much better, right? Um, and the other option is to go to like an English institute that you
Okay.
have. So when I first arrived, there are two major big ones that were very popular. I ended up working for one of them, and then it started booming. You had more, so you could see that more and more people were interested in studying. The difference then to coming to study in Canada is that study for maybe 10 hours to 30 hours a week of English, right? But
Hmm.
to do because you have to work, you have to study. So people study three times a week for 4 hours and a half, or two times a week for 5 hours, something like that. So the progression is a little slower than if you were come to Canada, you know. So those are
Hmm.
basically the two different ways, and that. Hmm. Um,
And we've talked in the past about bringing, and you've actually done a lot of this yourself. You've brought students from South America to Canada or
right,
recruited them, right?
right, right.
So maybe if there's someone in our audience who is interested in coming to Canada, what would they do? What would a first step be if they want to come and learn English in Canada?
Well, what they could do. So I always recommend, which is not a good thing to hear, that the institute want to hear. Don't come with zero English, right? Uh,
So
uh,
not for beginners, right?
I've had the unfortunate experience that, yeah, no, it's a student of ours that we had. I don't know if you remember, I forgot his name, but he never advanced 5 months, so for 5 sessions, he never advanced past 101. Okay. It was very, very difficult for him to pass.
Yeah, I think I know who you
And
mean.
yeah, and you can basically learn from like from zero to pre-intermediate. You can learn that at at your home, right? So you can go to an institute,
Yeah.
not pay as much, and continue working, continue studying, and you're going to learn well. Because the idea of coming here is not only to to learn English in a formal setting, but also be able to learn in an informal setting.
Going
Uh,
out and using it, right?
right. Join a soccer team, join a rugby team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And meet new friends and learn their English. Go to a bar, go to a cafe, and learn other English. So if you already have a base of vocabulary and you feel comfortable speaking, then you're gonna see that you're going to jump. That projection of advancement is going to be a lot higher than if you just do, this is the door, this is the window. That stuff everybody can learn on
Yeah.
their own, even. So that's the first thing. Uh, Also, the other thing is to try to find an agent. So my wife and I are have created one here in Vancouver, and we're basically focusing in Chile, okay, to bring over. Also, so find an agent that can provide them some information about the different programs they want, because you can go to Australia, you go to New Zealand, United States, Canada, obviously, and see what the programs are available to them. Also, what is the objective of learning English? That's
That's a good point.
some people want to just have fun, okay, for themselves, for personal growth. Some people want to study. Some people need their English in order to get a better job that requires more English. So really have a focus of what is your intention of learning English, okay, and that you try to fit what schools there are. Because
Okay.
just like the institute that I worked in Chile, which was very old school way of doing things, but it was very, very um, academic based, very, very serious compared to other ones were not so serious. So when you come to Canada or somewhere, you have institutes that are more like touristic English, okay,
Okay. Yep.
general English, it's more to have fun, but then you have other ones that are more dedicated to the academic side. So that teach you really how to read, to teaches you
Mm-hmm.
really how to give a presentation. And so that's what the understanding what your objective is so important, so that you make the right choice. Because if you just want to have fun and you go to a serious institute, that you're not going to have so much fun.
Yeah.
And if you really want to improve your English before work, or you needed to do the TOEFL test or the IELTS test to enter to get a master's degree at a university in the UK, and you're just with a bunch of kids just fooling around, it's not going to fit. So that is
Yeah.
a very important understanding about that, you know, and see what the interests are. Do some research in the country, of the city, if you like to do that. Are you a city person?
Mm-hmm.
So in the case of Canada, that might be Toronto, New York, for example. But if you like nature, outdoor activities, obviously Vancouver is what's really known about,
Yeah.
right? Because
That
you
that
go
raises
mountain
a
bike.
question I've
Mhm.
often wondered if I were a student in Chile thinking about I want to study English abroad. How do I make the choice between Australia, the U.S., Canada, or the U.K.? Like, how do they make that choice from Chile
Mhm.
specifically? I mean,
Well, actually, a lot of Chileans, because and this is probably true for a lot of other people from around the world, is Chile has like these working holiday packages with the country of Australia,
oh,
or
okay,
or
yep,
Canada. And so a lot of times they oh, I like Australia more, one, because it's in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so
yep,
it's not that you're leaving summer to go to winter, so you combine that. And it's also about what's more interest about the weather. So that's what I mean. So if you want to go and surf and you want to be in hot weather all the time, okay, Australia is what it's more suited for you, right?
right,
but also they have. But in the case of people who want to work, do you really want to be in an environment where there's a strong Australian accent or a strong Irish accent? Because so like I said, countries like Chile can go to Ireland for a year,
Hmm.
like these working holidays, study for 4 to 6 months English and work at the same time. They go to Scotland, for example, but maybe their accent's going to make it a little more difficult for them to uh, to meet other people, like
Right.
to go into United States or something like that. So
Maybe
that's
the
the
English
thing.
they've been exposed to that point has all been sort of American
Right,
style English, and
right,
the Irish
right,
is going to shock them.
right. No, like even for myself, basic like English is my first language. When I watch Netflix videos from Scotland, from England, from Australia, New Zealand, there are words and
Hmm.
accents that I don't even understand.
For
Right.
sure. Yeah.
So one of the funniest jokes that I always tell my students is I had a friend from New Zealand who played in a that had played rugby there. So we have a sister club there, and they would come up. I could never understand him,
Yeah.
especially after a game. We go to a pub, start drinking. Couple of girls come over, and he's talking. I have no idea, so I have to invent
Hmm.
things
Yeah.
about what my friend's saying, right? Because I didn't understand them.
It's like another
So
language
so
altogether.
no, it is. So those are kind of things. Like I always
Yeah.
say, it's what is your clear objective and what you
Okay.
want to do, and
And like
and
you
if
said,
you
if they want to be around nature, they go to one place. If they like
right,
city life, or they want to get a job in a finance or business, you want to be in
hmm
New York rather than
right,
the outback.
right, and also it's like education tourism is very popular today. So
Hmm.
study English for 1 month in Australia. The following
Okay.
week, study English in England. Study English in South Africa. Study English in Scotland for 1 month. That's another option. So there you get a wider range of accents and a wider range of vocabulary. But
That's
that's what I
interesting.
mean about what is your true objective
Yeah.
about that. You know.
I guess that's even though young people often don't know what their ultimate objective is,
Hmm.
that's a really important consideration because it's going to be a huge difference in cost, right? If you want to go
Oh
into
no, definitely.
academic programs, it's going to be longer, it's going to be more intense, it's going to cost more.
Right. Right.
Not to mention the international student cost of a university or a college.
Right.
But if you just
Which
want to,
which is the other factor, right? So
yeah.
some students ask me, okay, should I go to Canada, United States? I said, um, you could go to both. Now,
Hmm.
Canada is cheaper because
Right.
Canada, the exchange rate is about
The
20 to
exchange. Yeah.
30% cheaper than it is United States. Because
Yeah.
basically, a Big Mac combo is $11 in Canada. That same Big Mac combo in the United States is $11, but it's American dollars. So that's
Yeah.
another thing to take into consideration, right?
And depends
Um,
on the two currencies,
right,
right? How they're doing at
right,
any one
right.
point.
Right. And also
That can
in
be,
what city you want to go, because Vancouver is the most expensive city in Canada,
yeah.
Vancouver and Toronto. But if you go to a small town, maybe in Victoria or even up into Whistler, so even like
Yeah.
small towns like Whistler, they actually might be cheaper. Go
Hmm.
to Calgary or something like that.
Yeah.
It's actually might be cheaper for them, or even a small town USA.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of universities. Public universities in the United States have English programs during the summertime, so they can stay at the residency. It's much cheaper. The cost of living, the cost of things there is much cheaper as well.
Speaking of that, I'm going to ask a student who I think is still on stream with us here.
Hmm.
Her name is Aiko.
Okay.
She last year she moved from Vancouver, where she had been studying and working, to New Brunswick. So Aiko, if you're watching, maybe you can share with us in the comments. Have you found life in the East Coast cheaper than Vancouver? A lot cheaper, or a little bit cheaper, or is it more expensive for you? Now
Hmm.
that you've lived in both sides of the country, can you just maybe just make a comment and tell us what your experience has
Oh, there
been?
she is.
Ah, yeah, Aiko. Is it cheaper for you? Have you noticed a lot of difference on the East Coast? It seems like that's okay, yeah.
Definitely affordable. Yeah. It's just rent,
So
just the housing. If you
yeah,
just take
just
the
that alone.
housing, it's a lot cheaper.
So even if the currency across Canada is the same, so
Right.
if you're coming from Chile, you're considering the Chilean, what's the currency called?
Peso, the Chilean peso. Yeah.
Peso. So the peso versus the Canadian dollar gets you into the country, but then where you live in Canada, huge
Hmm.
difference.
Oh no, no, definitely. I had friends who lived in New York, you know, living living the Wall Street lifestyle, but they were living in a small two-bedroom apartment with having with a roommate. Basically, half of
Yeah,
their salary just goes to rent, but then they
yeah,
moved, I don't know, to St. Louis or to a smaller town in the States, and yeah, the cost just went down so much.
big
So it's
difference.
so those are all the considerations to take, but definitely take it though. A lot of
Yeah,
people dream about it, but never really act on it. And actually,
yeah,
don't worry about the money. The money's going to come later, you
yeah.
know. Okay.
The experience
Um,
will pay off in the long run, won't
no,
it?
definitely. No, definitely. It's so like for example, a lot of students say, "Oh, I don't I can't afford to go to Harvard," right? I said, "Okay, yeah, Harvard's expensive." So or something. But if you get into an MBA program in Harvard and it costs $150,000, would you accept it or not? And a lot of students, yeah, but I don't have the money. Yeah, but you have to try to get a student loan or
Yeah,
something because
because it will pay off.
yeah, because once you graduate from with an MBA from Harvard, your salary is going to be in the millions, you know.
Yeah,
There is an investment that
yeah.
you do make. So there's bit of sacrifices that you have to
I think
do.
that's probably pretty hard to see for young people,
Hmm.
but it's something that you're absolutely right. It should be reinforced because education is an investment. You A lot of programs, even something sort of in the humanities, like you go and study philosophy, it may not necessarily get you a specific job, but it's
Hmm.
going to change you. It's going
Right.
to develop you. It's going to change your thinking. It's going to encourage your skills in a lot of different ways that you can't really predict.
Hmm.
And that will lead to more success than if you didn't, right? I mean, I'm a teacher, so I believe in education. I believe it does things to us that may not be directly visible, you know?
Right. Right. And
But
it's just simple as learning a new language.
yeah,
If you speak, a person needs to hire two people on their resume
yeah,
identical, but one speaks English, the other one doesn't speak English very well, and you're an international company, you are going to get hired a lot.
absolutely.
Or other companies like Google and Microsoft, they recruit around the world. And
Hmm.
so if you're able to speak English, you can actually go and live in Silicon Valley. You
Yeah.
can live up in Seattle. Those doors is what opens up, and that's what I think is the most important. Just give you the possibility of having options.
Hmm.
Oh, those are the good things.
Can you give us some sense of how, for Chilean students in particular, which country is most appealing to them? Is there? Do you have some sense of that? Where do they usually
Um,
go? Do they usually go to
well,
Canada?
in yes, I would say if it's just on vacation, like the working holiday, Australia and New Zealand tends to be the more popular one. Okay,
Right.
so and I think at Australia is because of the weather, right?
Yeah.
Uh, maybe it's it's a misconception of, oh, Canada is always cold, always
I
snowy
think
and
people
stuff like
believe
that.
that.
That's a lot of people might stay away. But ever since Canada has had this working holiday, a lot of Chileans do come here. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
they might not study English. They want that work experience, right? So they might do that. When I was in Chile, I had my own business, kind of, where I actually helped a lot of students to study abroad. Fortunately for them, the Chilean government had a special scholarship called Becas Chile that would pay for their master's degree and their PhD degrees full,
Mm,
like completely.
wow.
And
Fantastic.
so a lot of them obviously wanted to study at United States universities or to London. Okay, so I helped actually many to go all over, even up to
Hmm.
Norway, for example. In Germany, they actually went there as well. But yeah, but in the case of education, a master's and PhD degrees, which I think we can tell from the rankings of university, the top ones are United States and
Yeah.
the UK. And in fact, a lot of I should have charged commission to the NYU law school, because I've had maybe 10, 12 students get an LLM there, you know.
Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing.
because they also want to have that New York living experience, right?
Sure. Of course.
Or the London School of Economics. They wanted that London experience of
That's part
living
of it.
there,
Yeah.
you know.
And if
So
you're not paying, if there's a scholarship in
yeah.
place,
No, no, definitely. Yeah, and the only thing they had to do is just come back, and if you study for 2 years, you have to be in Chile for 4 years. So it's double.
okay.
You don't have to work for the government or anything like that, but it's a great opportunity to expand yourself,
For
because
sure.
the idea is to create more human capital, right? And to
Yeah.
have that experience outside, see what you see from outside, and you come in, which is the other benefit of traveling as well, right?
Hmm.
You see what do you see outside that you can actually bring back, or
Yeah.
vice versa? What's in your country that's not abroad, and they can actually probably create their own business,
That's right.
so one of my classes I had at ELS was in the master was the business one, okay, where I had them create a business. One of the ideas is, either if they cannot come up with a complete new idea, it's, okay, what do you have in your country that's not in Canada,
Mm.
which will be a great business?
Yeah.
And vice versa. What's a good thing that you saw in Canada that's not back home that you can actually bring back home? And so,
Importing and exporting ideas, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And again, this is about opening doors, seeing new things, new experiences,
And
and
get them thinking that, you don't, your career doesn't just have to be working for a company. It could be an entrepreneurship,
yep,
and learning to think that what is entrepreneurship? What is creating a business? Well, it's just introducing a product someone else doesn't have.
yeah, yeah.
And we assume that everything is global, but it's not every idea or every product or service is
Mm.
global yet. So
No,
there's
no,
probably things in Chile that we don't see in Canada
right,
that would be
right.
would be great here.
Which
Just I
happens
mean,
when
just
you
even
live there,
food,
right?
right?
Which happens when you live there.
Hmm.
So visiting New York for 1 week, 2 weeks, you're not going to really learn the life of being a New
Yeah,
Yorker. But if you're studying at a language school, or you're studying a master's degree there, you are going to be immersed in that culture, in that
yeah,
environment. And that's where you start picking up like the idiosyncrasies of that society, and the little
right.
different things that you could have, so those are kind of things, you know. So there's a guy that lived in New York, no, actually lived in Chile, but he went to New York, and he actually made peanuts, like caramelized peanuts, in New York.
Wow, sounds
And
good.
boom, he exploded. So the guy had no money in Chile. He sold peanuts in Chile, but when he went there, he just went boom, and now he's,
So that's a common snack in Chile.
yep.
Wasn't a popular snack in New York. Boom.
No, exactly. No, it's just like
That's
bag of
great.
peanut caramelized peanuts, sugar
Yeah,
caramelized peanuts, and that's what he did. And so
amazing.
boomed off. And so
That's great.
was poor, and had the idea. And originally he was running away from the police because he didn't have the permit, but eventually he made it official. First he got a permit, and now, yeah, so he has a chain of these guys selling peanuts in New York.
Probably sells them to a lot of cops too, 'cause I'm sure
Oh yeah,
cops like their
definitely.
peanuts.
Yeah, definitely.
Raul, I want to start talking about something that's always an issue for teachers like you and I, and that's when
Okay.
we work with Spanish-speaking learners.
Mm-hmm.
As with all languages, we're not
Right.
singling them out. It's just particular. You're the expert here, but
Mm.
every language, when you're learning English, you're carrying a bit of baggage from your native language into the English. You're carrying grammar structures, you're carrying vocabulary or even pronunciations into English,
Mm-hmm.
and the native language can interfere with your English in funny ways sometimes. I
Mm-hmm.
always encourage my students to, let's enjoy it. Let's not be too self-conscious about it when you make these funny little errors.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to eventually correct them and get
Right.
as accurate as possible. So we have a little segment tonight. I want to get you to participate in.
Mm-hmm.
This segment is something we're going to call dun, 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 Raul's top 5 English errors influenced by Spanish. So, and what I'd like to do is introduce the common error and
Right.
have you explain the problem with this. Okay?
Right.
Are you
And it's also related to Portuguese as well.
okay? Yeah,
And I imagine other romantic languages, right?
because they're all very interconnected, right?
They're very interconnected. Yeah.
Okay, so the first one, I've certainly when we compared this list, a lot of them were very familiar to me,
Hmm.
having worked with Spanish and Portuguese speakers. So the first one is a common one I've heard. She said me was very busy. She
Hmm.
said me was very busy. So can you kind of break this down for us and tell us what's wrong with it?
Well, what's the difference between say and tell, right? So when do you say and tell? And so
Mm-hmm.
um, in the quick translation in Spanish, you would say something me dijo, okay? But tells is more like me contó. And so it's
Mm.
like more active. So but everybody tends to go with the softer of the say.
Okay.
So that's one thing why they keep the say. And also you probably see when you're studying English, you probably see say and said much more than you see
Right.
tell, right? So we tend to learn that word more often, which is kind of similar to will and be going to, right? A lot of
Right.
people see a lot of will when they think of future. It's will, but the more common one is actually be going to, right? So I think that's where the main problem here is they love the word say.
And
The
this should
problem
be
is
told, right?
right, right, because you say
Be
something,
told.
right?
Right. You
We
say the piece of word or the thing, right? You don't
Right.
say
So
me.
it's you're watching TV and somebody's talking, but you missed it. And he goes, "Oh, what did he say? What did he say?"
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to. You don't. He didn't say anything to your friend. He just said something on TV. So what did he say? So yeah, you say something, but you tell somebody something,
Good.
and so you direct it, and that's where you need to say, um, tell, told
Something.
to.
Right. So somebody, right? We tell
Yeah, you tell
somebody. We
somebody
say something.
something, but you tell
Right.
somebody something, right? And there
Okay.
you add the to. And sometimes another common mistake people say, she said to me, okay?
Mm.
So they would add the to there instead of
Right.
just replacing with this the tell, right? So that's what a very, very common
Okay.
mistake people say.
Yeah, I've heard that many times
Hmm.
myself. Let's take a look at the next one. We are 8 in my English class. We are 8.
Yeah. So sometimes I don't know if this is a translation problem or a Spanish grammar problem.
Right.
So sometimes it's gonna sound bad. If you want to learn Spanish, don't go to Chile, okay?
Okay.
Because
That's
um,
good news.
it's a
That's good
great it's a
insight.
great place to visit. There's a lot of beautiful geography. The people are great, good food. But the Spanish is a lot of the vocabulary, a lot of slang, and a lot of bad grammar. Okay, so it's not the
Okay.
best place for learning. So sometimes I don't know if that's why sometimes when I hear Spanish mistakes, it doesn't fit in my English because English is my first language. So
Right.
I'm biased in that sense, but I don't know if it's exactly the same. Um, so when I tell people we are 8, what do you mean? You're 8 years old? You know,
Mm-hmm.
so you can't be a number, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why, because in Spanish, it's very common people say we are 8.
Yeah, we are
Okay.
8 people in my group or something.
Right. So
Yeah.
I always tell them, no, you should say there are,
Yeah.
right?
There are.
There are 8
Not
in
we
my
are.
English. There are 8 students in my English class.
Because the way
Right.
the be verb works in English, we are teachers. We
Right.
are humans.
Right.
This word has to tell us about this,
Right.
but
Exactly.
we aren't 8. We're not a number. We are
Right.
humans. So
Exactly.
there are 8 people.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That.
That's really common, isn't it? I hear that all the time.
Oh no. Yeah. No. Definitely. No. Definitely. So yeah. So that's what I mean. Is like, okay, I know. So sometimes, which is informal speaking, it's correct, but formal speaking, formal grammar, it's incorrect. And so we see
Yeah,
that in language, even in English as well.
for
It's
sure.
like what we say is not correct sometimes. But
And it's funny because when I hear this, I can certainly understand it. I because it intuitively it kind of sounds like, yeah, I get it. We are eight people.
right,
We aren't just one people. We are. It kind
right,
of makes sense.
right,
Even in English, it almost feels like maybe we should use that too.
right,
But the problem is we don't. So conventionally,
right,
it doesn't
right,
fit. It doesn't
right,
match.
right. No,
But
exactly.
it has a kind of logic to it.
Hmm. No, yeah. So it's yeah because there's difference between global English and local. I mean, global mistakes
Right.
and local mistakes.
Yeah.
If it's local, you can get the gist of it. But if it's a
Yeah.
global, then you have no idea what they're talking about. And so yeah,
Yeah.
that's more of like it's like being picky a little bit.
Just want to quickly say hello to Ria. Hi, Ria. Welcome. Nice to see you again.
Hello.
Let's look at our next number 3. These, by the way, Ria, just joining us, these are top 5 English errors that are influenced by Spanish language. And this is number 3. My homestay family was very sympathetic.
Right.
So
So
what's the problem here?
okay. So again, translation.
Right.
Translation. So in class, sometimes I say, "Oh, this is Spanglish," a little bit,
Spanglish. I like it.
right? Um, so the biggest problem with romantic languages is like it's mostly Latin, right? And English is 50%, maybe 60% Latin as well. So we share common vocabulary, but the problem is that not all the vocabulary is translated literally
Yeah.
exactly the same, and sometimes we have. So sympathetic comes from the word simpático in Spanish, which
Simpatico.
means nice,
Right.
right?
And of
So
course, we
here,
have this word in English, but it doesn't
right?
necessarily mean nice. It
No,
has a different meaning.
exactly. So,
Right.
so they translate my homestays are very nice, perfect. But sympathetic, is sympathy, which means you feel sad for the other person, for the
Yeah.
other situation, which is
It's
also
not really
confusing because
nice.
some states they sometimes they say empathy. Okay.
Empathy.
So sometimes they confuse what sympathy is, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, so in Spanish, simpático means nice, but sympathy means you feel sad for somebody. Okay.
Right.
So right. So it's
So
not
in
you
this
feel what the
sentence,
person feel, it's just you feel sad for that person. Right.
right. So in this sentence, my homestay family was very sympathetic. What they really mean is, I mean, they could mean that, right? If the situation was like, I was hurt and, my boyfriend left me, so I was very sad. So my homestay family felt sad for me.
Right.
But the meaning here should be nice. The
Right.
homestay family was
And there
nice,
you would
right?
have to add they were very sympathetic to my situation.
To my situation. Yeah,
Right. So
exactly.
then yeah, so
Have to
that will
clarify
make
that.
sense. Right. So yeah.
I think that's a very common problem for all of our Romance language students because we do share these words, but
Mhm.
we might use them for different meanings, and
Exactly.
we might even use them in different grammar structures, like
Exactly.
different positions.
Exactly.
So it's almost like I always think it's almost like an overconfidence, like, oh, I know that word, we have it in Spanish, so I'll just use
Mhm.
it the same way.
Right. Yeah,
Whereas
because I think
if you come from an Asian language, for example, there are no correlations, so
right
you're learning the position and the meaning
for the very
on
first
its
time
own
you see it.
for the
Right.
very first time. So there is
Right.
kind of an advantage to that.
No, there is. There is. There is. Yeah,
Although
because the
there's
other
also an
time.
advantage to having some familiarity with these words.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely.
Let me just say hello to our regular viewer from Bangladesh, Roni. Hi,
Hello,
Roni.
Roni.
This is my friend and fellow teacher, Raul. And we're just looking at top five English errors that are influenced by Spanish. Oh, Chris has a comment here.
Oh yeah. I did not know that, but yeah.
We use in Dutch sympathy for nice, friendly. Okay, very similar.
Right. Right.
Okay, let's go to the next one, Raul. Number 4. The population of the USA is about 350 millions of people.
Right.
Millions of people. What's going on here?
It's the adjective.
Right.
So, um, so yeah, so when we use an adjective, either it's an adjective or a noun as an adjective, we don't change the number.
Right.
Okay.
This is already
Okay.
a number.
Right.
It can't be plural, right?
Right. And you also have to get rid of the of, right? So you right. So yeah, yours is about 350 million people.
Right.
Right.
So
So
it's a
yeah, so
number, but it's acting as an adjective to people.
right. Yeah, because in Spanish, right, if the object is singular or the subject is singular, there's no s. But
Ah,
if the
okay.
object or the subject is plural, then you have to have an s to the adjective, right? So you
Mm.
have to say blues houses, right?
Okay. Very
So
interesting.
blues houses because the houses is plural. Okay.
Right.
So that's what you have to do. And so yeah, so it's they have to break that habit of no, it's
Yeah.
just blue
Tell me something.
houses. Yeah.
In Spanish, are the adjectives also on this side of the noun all the time? I know sometimes they are.
Yeah, no, and mostly they are.
After.
So mostly the adjectives are on the other side. So on the right side of a noun. Okay.
So you
So
could
yeah, so
say
a
they
lot of
are people nice,
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Or people simpático. People
Yeah, people of
sympathetic.
course. What am I doing?
But
No, I'm
yeah,
stuck in the middle. I'm stuck in the middle of the Spanglish.
yeah.
People simpático with th or ti.
Simpático. TIC.
Simpático. So the
Yeah.
personas
Yeah.
simpático,
Personas simpáticas.
simpáticas.
Personas simpáticas. Which is the other
And it,
thing. So if the noun is feminine, then the adjective have to be feminine. If the adjective is masculine, then the noun has to be masculine, right? So you have to it
got it.
has to agree. So the adjective and the noun have to agree in gender and in number,
Right.
and that's what's different. But most of the words that we have in English are gender neutral, and the number doesn't influence it. So that's another
Right.
thing that people have to realize when they're writing. Okay.
And what you just described was like it's almost like a calculus of several considerations when you assemble a simple phrase like that. In Spanish, there's several considerations. There's the gender of the word, the position, the S or no S. A
Right.
lot of considerations. That's a lot to switch off when you suddenly have to speak in English, right?
Right. No, exactly. Exactly.
It's it's quite a challenge. I mean, I have
Mhm.
tremendous respect for our learners going through this. Angela
Mhm.
says it's the same in Serbian.
Right.
Okay, very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So, like you said, maybe it's easier for some of our Asian students. Yeah, English is completely new.
Yeah,
So it might take them a little longer to speak it, and to produce it.
learning. Yeah,
But they're going to grammatically they're going to be better, and which we see that
we
like
do.
when we
Yeah.
do tests, their speaking abilities tend to be lower,
Hmm.
but their grammar tends to be high. Whereas our
Yeah,
Spanish speakers, our Portuguese speakers, speaking is phenomenal. But
yeah.
grammar, oh my God, it's like here's a grammar book. Start learning from the very beginning. So,
It's always an interesting conversation because the Asian learners that come to Canada, they'll say, or they'll feel that their Portuguese and Spanish friends, they have such an advantage because we share vocabulary. And
hmm
that seems like an advantage, but we've also seen that that can be a problem. And I think the real advantage for the South American learners is that between South America, North America, and even Europe, we share a similar education system, a way of
right,
learning.
right,
Our high schools are very similar. In the Asian environment, it's a different method of learning,
hmm
and that doesn't necessarily prepare them for learning in Canada.
right,
But on the other hand, learning the English, the move from, let's say, Japanese to English, you're right. They're learning it from the ground up. There's no correlation, so they're not getting the vocabulary interfering the
right.
way a Spanish learner does. They might get the grammar structure because Asian languages have a kind of reverse grammar structure.
hmm
So that's a challenge. But I like to
Yeah.
encourage our Asian learners to think like, guys, you don't really have a disadvantage, right?
Hmm.
The Spanish learner has some advantages and some disadvantages too.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
just like that, the Asian language learner,
Right.
the Asian language English learner has
Hmm.
a little bit of disadvantages and some advantages. So I
Right.
think it's pretty even. It
Right.
just looks like the Spanish speaker has an advantage
Right.
because they're fluent. They can produce a lot.
Right. And those romantic languages, those mistakes tend to get fossilized.
Yeah,
They
they get stuck
never
pretty deep.
go away. So I've had students that are like very advanced speakers, but they always make that same mistake.
Yeah,
It just becomes fossilized. They can never break it
yeah,
because it's sewn inbred in their subconscious.
yeah.
That first language is like highly influences them.
Let's look at our last one, number 5. Number
Which one's
5,
this one?
English error influenced
Yeah.
by Spanish is very important. I think there might be even 2 errors hiding in here. It's very important for eat.
Yeah, there are two mistakes there.
It's a good breakfast, right?
So first mistake I call cannibalism.
Okay. Eating people. So
Eating
scary.
people. Yeah. Spanish speakers are cannibals. They love eating people.
What did they eat here?
So the first thing is, yeah, so basically what's your subject? Right?
You know the subject, don't you? Why do I need a subject?
Yeah.
So something's
So the
missing here, right?
yeah, so the
We
not
have a
yeah, so
verb.
the right. So what's the subject?
In English, we need a subject. Even if it's a replacement subject, right? Like a dummy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, exactly. So yeah, so what's the most common subject that's eaten is always the it.
It.
It. But a lot of
It.
students do, but a lot of students still also they forget to write the subject, even if it's a he or a she. And so
Right.
basically the reason why that happens is, so I always give the example went,
Went.
because so if we say, a lot of students might say went to the beach, but then I ask them, but who went to beach? Because it could be I, you, it, they, the dog, okay, the aliens, right?
Yep.
I don't know who it is. But in Spanish, because you conjugate the verb, and basically the ending of the verb tells you what the subject is, right? So if I
Right.
say fui a la playa, then I know fui, is for I.
Got it.
Fuiste, you. Okay.
So it's
Fue.
obvious from the verb.
Right. So yeah, because we conjugate. And so that's why a lot of times when people speak in Spanish, they never even say the subject. They almost never say the subject. So they almost never say I. They never say yo. It basically and they just give you the verb, but it's conjugated so you know what the subject is. All right. So that's why it's
That's
very
interesting.
common for people to make that mistake of eating the subject,
Yeah.
being a cannibal, eat the subject, right? And so that's the big problem that people
Okay.
have. Okay.
Yeah, very, very common. Almost every sentence is like that, I hear. And
Right.
what's the other? There's another
The
error
other one
hiding
is
here.
the famous uh for. So this is a translation. So it's basically what's the difference between two and four? But here I also would like to add by as well. Okay. So in Spanish, it goes, so for example, you say it's importante para comer. Okay. Or
Right.
it's importante comer. Okay. So when you say para, usually it's for. So
Right.
FOR. Okay. But comer is the infinitive. So that's why they don't put ing.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for them, yeah. So the for in the eat, it's standard because eat is you don't modify it, right? So
Right.
that's the thing. So a lot of times people say para, they put a for. Okay.
And in English, we cannot use for plus verb because
Right.
for is a preposition.
Right.
Preposition should come before a noun, not a verb.
Right.
So there's no possible structure of a for
Right.
plus verb.
right.
But in
But
English,
you can't,
in
right,
Spanish, it's the infinitive.
right, right. But the infinitive. So yeah. So the two, even though it's a preposition, in infinitive is part of the infinitive. So it's more
Part of the
structure,
verb.
not a
Yeah.
preposition. So because it's, you could say it's important to eat,
Yeah.
right? But for them, instead of putting the two, they put the for. And
Got it.
by now you can say it's important for eating,
Yeah.
but you
That's
need the
different.
ing.
Yeah. Because
That's
that
the
makes
same
it
thing.
basically a noun structure. It turns it into a
Right.
gerund, and then it
Exactly.
qualifies as a noun. So
Exactly.
I hear this a lot. I hear
Right.
for plus verb. I've
Right.
always wondered what the translation was
Right.
telling them, you know?
Right.
Para comer, you said.
Right. And a lot of times they, and the other one where why I wanted to add the by is also a thing because, for example, the passive voice. If you say Da
Okay.
Vinci, okay, the Mona Lisa was painted by Da
Da
Vinci.
Vinci. Yep.
So by what is por.
Ah,
So they actually, because it sounds, they actually say
right.
for Da Vinci. So the Mona Lisa was painted for Da Vinci. No, no, no,
And
no. It was
that grammar
by,
is possible, but it's a different meaning. It's like
right,
Da Vinci,
right,
I'll make this painting and give it to you for your present,
right.
right?
Exactly. And so that's where it causes confusion. So between
Yeah.
the for, the to, and the by, those causes
That's
confusion between.
that's almost a whole other problem where that grammar structure is totally possible in English.
Hmm.
So it doesn't sound right away to an English listener. It doesn't sound like an error. It just sounds like the different meaning.
Right,
I can make a painting for Da Vinci if he were alive,
right, right,
and give my painting to him. The purpose is for him. That's
right,
possible, but that's very different than
right.
he made it,
And it'll sound
right?
logical if you had no idea who Mona Lisa was and who Da Vinci
Yeah,
was. Ah, it
that's
looks
right.
looks
Yeah,
fine. But if you know, it sounds weird.
yeah.
You know,
We're
right,
assuming that he, because we know already that he made that painting.
right, exactly.
So it was made by him. We know that situation is, most people know that's the reality. So that meaning is the one we assume. We don't assume that she made it for him.
Exactly.
It's yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
For eat.
Yeah. So the for, the to, and the at. So not only in, on, at, for, to,
Right.
by.
It is very important to eat a good
Yeah.
breakfast.
It is very important to eat. Exactly.
Great.
So, so yeah.
Those are the top 5 this month
Right.
anyway. The top
Yeah.
5 English
And
errors
it's
influenced by
just the tip
Spanish.
of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg. Love that expression. Thanks for clearing that up for us, Raul. That's
Oh, no worries. No problem.
those are things I'm sure a lot of us recognize.
Mm-hmm.
And for our Spanish speakers in the viewer audience,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've experienced the struggle
Right. And
trying to get through those.
in Serbia and also in the Netherlands too, there's some similarity problems that we share, right?
Hmm. It's
So
amazing. So we have now we have all the continents represented, including our friend Tirath from Nepal.
okay,
Where was he? I think he said hi earlier on. The whole world is
the whole
represented
is
here.
watching.
It's pretty cool. However, we are now out of time,
All
and my
right,
camera is going to explode in a minute, Raul. So I'm going to have to say goodbye.
all right.
Thanks a ton for joining me today.
No,
It's
thank you. Thanks for having me. It's actually a lot of fun.
yeah. Well, we should definitely do this again because there's
Yeah,
so
for
much more
sure,
to talk
for
about.
sure, for sure. And everyone out there, keep on dreaming and go after your dream and keep on opening doors and explore different things. It only makes you better.
We didn't have a lot of time to get questions from the audience,
Okay.
so I apologize, guys. You didn't get a chance to ask Raul questions, but I'll have him on again soon so you can think about things you want to ask him, and we'll do that next time. Is that cool, Raul? Get you back
No, that's
on?
fine. Fine. No, it sounds great. Sounds great.
Awesome.
Happy to be there. All right, Chris.
So
Take care.
Chris is from Belgium.
Ah,
Thank you, Chris.
yeah,
And we have Aiko. Aiko is our Japanese nurse now working in New Brunswick.
yeah. She was my student.
Was she?
What? Yeah, I think so.
Aiko?
Yeah,
Aiko,
Aiko, were
did
you
you
my
study with
student?
Raul?
I think she studied ALS.
Eh?
I just got to see her. Got to see her face. That's all.
I have a feeling. I have a feeling she studied English in Toronto.
Oh, did she? Oh, okay. Oh, it might be a different Aiko then. No,
She says no.
oh, okay.
There you go.
All right. Well, nice meeting you, anyways. All right. Well, thanks you, Paul.
Great. Thank you, Raul. Take care, and I'll talk
Take
to you
care,
soon.
guys.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye, Raul. Thank you.
Bye bye.
And thank you, everyone, for joining me tonight. Sorry we ran out of time before we got a chance to get Raul to answer your questions, but I thank you for joining us tonight. We'll be back next week, and I know I missed someone's question from last week. I promised to answer it this week, but then I had the opportunity to get Raul on the show, so I will answer it next week. So I apologize for that, and thank you. Until we see each other again next week, guys, I want you all to stay healthy, keep learning English, and until we see you again, stay cool.